Welcome to this event. This is a particularly significant event because of the topic. But the topic is one that shouldn't cause us any distress. The problem is that we're in a world where misinformation, wrong information, what do you believe is the norm? And if you don't know what I mean by that, check it out in your newspaper. Check out the instances of people giving the wrong information with the intention to deceive or mislead. I'm going to tell you the event intro, which you've heard or seen before. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about our speaker and then introduce him. Firstly, my name is Darling. I'm in the fortunate position of being the chairman of 3 great groups in BCS, the British Computer Society, which is the Chartered Institute of IT. And if you haven't seen it, our charter is actually next door, and do go and have a look at it later. It's the one with the big red seal on it. However, this event is about something which possibly the royal family aren't involved with. I hope not, anyway. But let me tell you a story first. In February 2024, open source intelligence investigator Sohan Dsouza spotted unusual looking Facebook adverts targeting Qatar, leading him to eventually uncover a vast, high-budget, general AI augmented influence operation run through Vietnamese phone farms and active across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Telegram, and other platforms. It used farmed and hacked digital assets, possibly yours, to covertly push political propaganda and anti-Muslim or anti-immigration tropes into the UK. We've been getting quite a lot of anti-immigrant information just last weekend, haven't we? Exposing serious gaps in platform countermeasures, transparency, and accountability. So, if I say that just weeks after Sohan's public exposure of this operation, the Southport child stabbing tragedy, which was very physical, triggered UK-wide riots fueled and focused by misinformation. His investigation of the spread of this misinformation revealed an influential ecosystem of online presences, including many farmed and operated from abroad. In this presentation, Sohan will outline both investigations, sharing lessons for platforms, policymakers, which you may well be, and regulators. He'll also present a walkthrough of a basic kit of investigative tools, which you will be able to see and hopefully participate in. And these will empower anyone to take a deeper look at material that they encounter online or signs of techniques designed to manipulate and deceive. Now, of course, you're not manipulators and deceivers, are you? Look carefully at the person next to you, make sure that applies. And let me tell you a little bit.
Maybe on tour, that probably.
Yeah. Excuse me, you two, come to the front. There are spaces here. Sohan Dsouza is a London-based consultant specializing in the investigation and specializing in the investigation of disinformation and covert influence operations. He trained extensively in open source intelligence, OSINT, and using these techniques including as a digital Sherlock with the Digital Forensics Research Lab. Sohan applies them to detect and expose malign or otherwise inauthentic activity online. There's been a public voice on the issues of transparency and accountability in social media platforms and online services. He engages on these topics as a visiting researcher with the Center for Humans and Machines at the prestigious Max Planck Institute for Human Development. Sohan also brings years of experience in academia, primarily in computational social science research, along with years of experience in industry as a software engineer. Who's a software engineer here? A small number of people, mainly clustered at the front. His academic research background includes studies and high-impact publications in crowdsourcing, social mobilization, AI ethics, and computer-mediated negotiation. So if you're about to do negotiations and find yours being mediated by computer, Sohan may well be behind it. He was awarded an SM.
SCNT Magister. It's a Master of Science.
Oh. He was awarded an SM in computational social science from MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, an MSc in informatics from the British University in Dubai's program with the University of Edinburgh, and other computer-related qualifications, including the Bachelor of Science in Computer Information Systems from the Illinois Institute of Technology. And it goes on and on and on. But that's enough of me going on and on and on. Please join me in welcoming Sohan Dsouza.
Thank you all very much for coming today. The basic structure of what I'm going to be talking about emphasizes, as you can see from the splash image, the international phenomenon that is disinformation. It spans countries, affects countries across the world, and affects all of us. It should be considered a kind of fraud, covert influence operations. But going to specifics to start with. Let's zoom out to the global picture, right? Let's look at one big influence operation globally. The aforementioned sketchy ads that I saw on Facebook. So I began by noticing this. I mean, there's a bit of an art to this. You notice something is a bit sketchy, looks a bit inauthentic. You kind of get that through experience. And this kind of triggered my my spidey senses. And so I began looking for things with similar text, with similar images. Found another page that had the same ad. Looked further into that. Also found Mark Owen Jones, who's now at Northwestern University, Qatar, incidentally. And he's also a researcher in this space. So we both were looking into this, and we found it went all the way back to November, basically. It was starting with things that were fairly, agreeable, things like, secularism and, helping people, and not something that I think many people would disagree with. And then it kind of got very, very obsessive, especially with one particular figure, the mother of the Emir of Qatar, but also just attacking Qatar in general, accusing it of harboring terrorism, of perpetuating terrorism, through influence, through university programs it funds, or through football clubs that it owns, and so on and so forth. There was a fake NGO created, a fake change.org petition, and all sorts of things that were even invoking, for example, like evangelical Christianity to push this kind of message. And in the third phase, well, prior to that, there was a real life leaning in as well, with like ads in, for example, Times Square, at the at CPAC with the Conservative Conference. There were appearances at protests, in live protests as well, stunts in malls, for example. And then it got really weird. It began going into like full AI mode, mostly propagandistic AI, but also began leaning into very anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant tropes. More fake NGOs, more leaning into the whole, like, immigrants are bad, Muslims are bad, and Qatar is responsible for that. And this is a little snapshot, a little collage of the whole operation. It spanned numerous pages on Facebook, Instagram, on X, on Telegram, Wikimedia, strangely. This is not very, very common, and many other platforms. It is basically like pretty much every major platform was attacked by this influence operation. I'll go into each one of those. It reached widely. Incidentally, France was one that ended up being targeted the most, but it also targeted Lebanon and the United States quite a bit, as well as the United Kingdom. And I'll go into that specifically later. On Facebook, at least, we were able to figure out by looking at these networks of pages that sponsor ads on other pages effectively. And looking into that, we're able to connect different digital assets together and figure out that, aha, okay, so there's this network that kind of emerges. And we see all of these, this huge web of sponsoring pages, burner pages, and public-facing pages pushing this operation. And many of these were run through, nearly all of them actually were connected to this Vietnamese proxy, Le Tin Ly, running so-called LT Media. This person was quite bold as to basically have a trade in farmed and hacked digital assets and sell them, pricing them based on how many verification levels they had, and selling them on Facebook, like inauthentic Facebook assets.
That is something actually.
And on YouTube, like openly having videos showing like how exactly he does this. And we could see like wherever, in almost every single case where there was a currency, when we could see like the amount spent and the currency, it was in Vietnamese dong. And there was also a lot of those hacked pages we're talking about. For example, this Main Hoki Dissini, this unfortunate aspiring Ghanaian hip hop artist, this unfortunate Mahesh Bandre, this unfortunate regional Indian politician, this Kokori Pizzeria, an unfortunate Hungarian pizzeria, all of which had their assets hacked and then renamed to something else, and then used as either sometimes a public facing account, but often as a burner account, because they're less likely to, having accumulated genuine authenticity, it's much harder to take those down, much harder for them to send up red flags. There was also a lot of farmed engagement, and many of these come from the so-called phone farms. So they basically run scripts, or they have, sometimes people also doing this. According to a template, they'll create a whole bunch of pages that just have the same profile picture, or just have, from a text file, just script out a whole bunch of pages, and they'll use those to, for example, put reacts to boost content, or to run ads or things like that. Sometimes they'll run ads using mundane content, like a picture of a red rose, and then they will flip over to running political ads. And it's not really clear what happens here, but the suspicion is that they'll run these ads and then they'll report them as political or otherwise not permitted. And then the moderator will see, oh, this is actually fine. It must be someone's trying to troll this page, so I'll put a safe on it. And then they can start running political ads and without as much scrutiny. There was a lot of stuff on X as well. A lot of AI generated pictures. For example, this guy with a middle incisor, a single middle incisor, and this another AI generated picture running ads with cheap fakes, portraying Sheikh Hamoza, the aforementioned mother of the Emir, as saying words she didn't say, and running ads in this weird campaign of Qatar's entry in Eurovision, but with Qatar singing about how it's going to perpetrate terrorist attacks and so on and so forth. And yeah, there was a lot of, especially towards the end of this this whole arc, we ended up with a lot of lazy stuff, like which gave a lot of connections away, which gave even more connections away. For example, the reuse of content with watermarks from other campaigns, and reuse of handles, like parts of handles between campaigns. So that enabled us to further connect campaigns. Reuse of content, for example. The Wikimedia stuff was quite fascinating because it's not often that you see Wikimedia, Wikipedia and such being trolled, but yeah, Wikipedia and Wikidata were also part of this, part of the attack. They did some pretty sneaky stuff, like they would edit some links in, and then they would change the picture to something ridiculous, and then a moderator would change the picture, and then they would change the picture back, but without changing what they had edited in. They would use multiple accounts in coordination, so that it would look like someone fixed it, so it's fine. But in fact, they had snuck in a link, and that gave the link more ranking because now it's in Wikipedia. Again, another case where someone would enter a link or enter some content, and then another account, actually in coordination, sometimes a hacked account, would do a revert vandalism, and then sneak in their own content while doing a revert vandalism. You can actually do that. When you're reverting a vandalism, you can sneak in something. I don't know if they fixed that now, but at least at that point you could do that. There was a lot of AI generated content as well. Not very realistic. It's more like, the cheap fakes and propagandistic AI generated stuff, including voiceovers. I really want to find these people and let them know that Muslims don't pray outwards from a single point. They pray in one direction towards Mecca. But that's AI for you. And this was noticed by many others. I mean, at least the general way of the general MO of this. For example, the Facebook, the way that Vietnamese phone farms and Vietnamese inauthentic, these inauthentic behavior operators hack assets and then trade them as high value digital commodities. More of this, like they basically have click farms or phone farms are basically racks of phones that are all connected to a central interface. There was a documentary that actually featured this work of me and Mark, and just showing like how they have dedicated software engineering, like software production firms that produce software specifically for running these phone farms, for doing this like inauthentic scripting of fake conduct on these phones. So yeah, what I'd really like to see is like more strengthening of the platform countermeasures, especially like you can have a name of something changed without many alerts or anything like that. Except I think it's only like a page name change that introduces any kind of alert. But apart from that, there's pretty much nothing that does so. Especially like changes in behavior or content doesn't result in any kind of alert. Sometimes information disappears. For example, one of the major giveaways was the name of a burner page that enabled us to connect to other sponsoring pages. But that information disappeared after a while. And there's no native way to archive any of these. So that's another problem. And also, yeah, from a legal perspective, it'd be great if we considered all of this fraud. And I know it's in another country often, but it should be considered, some kind of a serious offense. And it'd be great if also the public had media literacy, and that's what I'm hoping towards the end, to also give some tools for people to be able to, for civilians, I guess, to look into this as well from their side. For this segment, I want to thank especially Marco and Jones, with whom I co-authored this report and did the investigations, and also Anu Chopra for bringing it to press. This is the report. And I want to zoom in to the Qatar plot's impact on the UK in particular in preparation for the next segment. You can see, in addition to the one about the Big Ben earlier one, you can also see there were specific cases of the use of AI generated or basically crisis framing stuff aimed at the UK. Like, for example, in these ads over here that were specifically targeted at the UK, we noticed that there was a lot of engagement from people in the UK, and a lot of it was very, very toxic, very, very anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim. And we estimate it reached about 6.5 million people in the UK by around July, conservative estimate, July 2024, at the end of which this happened. So at this point, we didn't know anything, right? There were a bunch of mitigating factors creating what is known as an information void. There's an information void in pretty much any major event, but especially in this case because it involved a minor. And yet within 2 hours, a certain Europe invasion account was already claiming that this person, that the perpetrator was a Muslim immigrant. The perpetrator of this terrible crime was a Muslim immigrant. It was an anonymous account though. But then a named account shortly after said it was a migrant and insinuated that they were close to this event, that there was some kind of witnessing going on here. This got picked up by sort of an India kind of organization. It apparently exists only on social media, on Facebook and X. And what this seems to do is basically take stuff from elsewhere in the internet and make it look bigger than it actually is and repeat it, basically without any kind of fact checking or anything like that. Picked up by a leader of a nationalist party as well, spread further from there. And then we had the famous Ali al-Shakati. This particular strain of the misinformation gave a whole like ridiculous bio, MI6's foreign operations. But anyway, that got picked up by another major public figure and by many people, and basically, went very, very far throughout the British internet. But it really got a boost when a certain Channel 3 Now News, which some of you may have heard of, that got a bit of notoriety, that gave it its first real newsiness. It's what I call and some others have called a Potemkin news. It's basically like has a facade of news, much like those Potemkin villages of old Russia. But there's no actual journalism that happens. It's basically taking stuff from around the internet and slapping it together into some article looking like thing, and having something that looks like a news outfit. But that really exploded then, spread throughout the internet, throughout X especially. People were quoting it on Facebook, quoting it on its website. And another variant also spelled, some people were actually spamming this in reply as well. That Europe invasion account repeated this claim and used this as a vindication of its own claim. And it also took it upon itself to boost someone who appears to be a Hindu nationalist, claiming to be a militant Islamist, claiming this as an attack for Islam. And that got a lot of traction as well, which I guess cemented the idea that this was some kind of Islamic terrorist attack. But got a bit of boosting on Facebook as well, thanks to this Nigerian outfit. And not last but not least, Andrew Tate. Enough said. Yeah, that certainly got all the right people out for the party. By the next day, there was an official statement, not specifically addressing the name or anything like that, but at least letting people know that a name is going around and that it's wrong. And the next day, an apology came, but too little, too late. Actually, in a good degree because of the initial misinformation, but also because of persistent copium over the next few months, like people saying, well, it was kind of right if you squint, there was some Al-Qaeda manual used, so yeah, it was kind of Muslim if you squint. But yeah, the misconception rate actually increased over the following months. And going into each one of these cases, we have like UK News, that Indian news outfit that I mentioned. This is one of those regurgitator sites, as I like to call them. They just have a grift of taking stuff from the internet, usually from X, and reposting it on X, monetized usually. And that you can see over here, like it just takes this content and adds some hashtags and watch or breaking and repeats it. You can see over here, this specific typo is repeated as well. So this is probably some kind of script that they use as well. And there's this other account that has the same MO, the same splash image and everything. It's likely connected. I also found another account that was acting as an advocate for this account. So there appear to be at least 3 accounts in this network connected to this individual, which is the original owner of this, or I mean, it's connected to this individual. This is how the account looked earlier on. So unless it got hacked or something, this is the same person. And unfortunately, this is a pattern. There are apparently lots of accounts run from places like India, where they pretend to be, you know, Pitbull or Crazy Vibes or something like that. This one got a lot of engagement from Elon Musk, incidentally. But yeah, you actually pop the hood on these accounts and you'll find out that they're all Indian. A little bit of a goodness gracious me. See, I can do British memes too. And yeah, our famous person who was arrested for a little while, this person is actually has a bit of notoriety as well, spreading misinformation about the Herald's riots, stuff about lockdowns, about climate change and so on. A bit of a record there. And in Channel 3 Now News, this is one of the most interesting cases. Early on, I managed to, before the website was taken down or they took it down, I managed to get a scan of its ad, and I'll show you how to do that as well. Get a scan of its ad records and found this link over here, Zoic, which has AI generation blog articles. Like you can do AI generated articles, basically. And that would explain the speed with which they were able to get this out without having done any real research or anything like that. It's just taken from a bunch of information from around whatever's trending from around the web, from whatever's trending around social media, and just threw it into something resembling some Frankenstein's monster of an article, and the damage gets done. Apparently at one point I looked into this further, and I'll show you how to do this as well. It's really neat. Found it was actually posing at one point as a Fox News affiliate, which is a bit appropriate, I think.
A Fox News affiliate? A Fox News affiliate?
Yeah, well, you can see the Fox logo over here. Yeah, its Facebook wasn't much better. It had clearly, you know, just like the X account, it had scrubbed and rebranded multiple times. I think there's some kind of like a trial and error thing to see what really sticks. So they can do that because, you know, there's barely an accountability for this. People, when you're subscribing to a page, you don't see its history of being scrubbed or any changes in behavior or anything like that. And this was found not by me, but by others, to have links with an outfit that is split between Pakistan and the US, hence the flags and the splash image. So yeah, someone's making money of that as well, thanks to the copious advertising links as well. And the Europe Invasion account is a pretty interesting one. We actually noticed this one way back, even during the Qatar plot, when we were investigating where they were getting their xenophobic content for that influence operation. And we noticed these accounts because they were a big part of that. And they were apparently looking into their history, which they were trying to hide. It was apparently called, this Europe Invasion was called Makane Crypto, and this one is called LSN Nurse. And they formed a kind of a dyad, basically boosting one another, try and, you know, get each other to go viral and get more traction. Sort of disinformation dyad. And they were part of a Turkish language internet, the Turkish language online ecosystem of content farming. We can see over here, they actually, just like Channel 3 Now News, actually rebranded and scrubbed multiple times. And they were traced. The people at SVT, the Swedish channel, reached out to me, and they found out that this was apparently run by a couple of Turkish people in Dubai. Very strange. Using a lot of these AI images. Incidentally, an article also came out today in the Times and Sunday Times about this phenomenon, using these AI articles of usually very blonde, white people, usually female and young, surrounded by, either jeering or menacing looking Muslim looking people. And this is a huge propaganda genre. We can see over here, actually, for some reason it's popular even in the Turkish language ecosystem, which is kind of weird. But apparently they use the same templates. Like this is the one that was spread by Europe invasion, and these are the ones that were spread in the Turkish, like with the Turkish flag. Anyway, maybe there's a shop that does all of these for like xenophobes everywhere. And incidentally, there was another similar operation. This account, Zealous Ozturk, which was basically a thirst account. It was posing as someone, as a couple looking for intimate encounters, some kind of swinger thing, and then it flipped. It scrubbed and flipped over to some kind of Radio Europe, and started spitting out a whole bunch of very xenophobic stuff. Eventually, trying to repeat a performance, the Southport performance, by blaming church fire in Ireland on Afghans and blaming a church fire in Wales on Pakistani migrants, neither of which were true, but certainly get some people thinking about violence. So yeah, this whole ecosystem of platform account farming, Potemkin news, these farm and flip grifts, this all making the internet a much more grifty place, a much more dangerous place for all of us. Even if if you respect freedom of expression, at least you should agree that we all have a right to an authentic experience online for the attention that we are giving to platforms to resell. So yeah, that should certainly be something that is considered, along with safety and accountability. Like transparency should be a huge part of that. It's very hard to do. Interoperability, native archiving, which are essential for investigations. So now we come to the fun part, and maybe interactive as well, if you can do something on your phone as well. So what can you do about it? This is sort of I gave a 3-day workshop in Berlin about OSINT. I've picked some choice bits and kind of summarized them a bit. So here are some things that we can try together, maybe if you have a laptop or a phone. So this is one thing. Like on most platforms, there'll be assets that will have something like a handle, like for example, me on X, it'll be, on Blue Sky, it'll be Sohan Dsouza. On Blue Sky, it'll be my website, sohanddsouza.info. On X, it'll be Sohan Dsouza, and on Facebook as well as Sohan Dsouza. But on each platform, there will be a unique identifier that will not change, even if I change my name, or just change my name on my handle on the platform, or change my display name on the platform, right? A lot of these grift operations, especially, but also the influence operations, the ones that use hacked assets, for example, they'll scrub and rename and rebrand as something completely different, and use that to either spread to do scams, or to spread misinformation or things like that. So if you come across anything that looks sketchy or something that's suspect, one of the things you should do first probably is to find its canonical ID and pull that out. So let's say today's Newsco. I'll take that one and I'll ask for a conversion. Okay, so that'll give me a canonical ID, right? Now, once you have a canonical ID, there are unfortunately no official ways to find out what the history of that account, what the history of the handle was. I wish there were. I wish maybe even there was like some government infrastructure or something like that, like government archiving of at least these kinds of changes in social media platforms, in social media accounts. But there isn't. But there are some third parties that very generously, and sometimes for pay, I guess, as well, do archiving of these kinds of things. There's a bunch of gaps, and sometimes you may not get everything, but sometimes it works. I've made sure this works, so I can demo it. But in this case, for example, there's the awesome bottom meter, which is run by a university. And you can actually put the username if it's the current username, but if it's like something that was scrubbed, for example, and you have the canonical ID, you can stick the canonical ID in there and do a check user. And that'll tell you it's our old friend Zealous Ozturk, which was the account that rebranded as, as Radio Europe and spread all that misinformation about the fires in Wales and Northern Ireland. So there's actually another application as well. It's called memory.lol app as well. So it's a memory.lol/app, and you can do the same thing over here and do a Twitter history search. And this one has captured the Radio Europe's handle of this. So as you can see, each of these different web applications gives you different answers. It captures a different one. So hopefully, like between sometimes their answers overlap, sometimes they don't, and sometimes they completely miss older variants. But at least you'll be able to get like some idea of what, assuming it was captured. There are gaps in that knowledge as well, but you can find out, like, for example, this was called Radio Europe's before, and this gives you actually a link to even the Wayback Machine of it. You can see the old status. Yeah. So yeah, that's how you at least start like a Twitter investigation. If something looks sketchy, you can run it through these and see if there's any like scrubbing, any signs of scrubbing and rehandling. And should you find any, you can do things like really just a Twitter search actually. So in this case, you can do well, you can actually go to the Twitter's advanced search panel and do this, but it's much more convenient to just do it like this. So you just do a 2: and then enter the old handle, and you can see if you look in the latest column, you can see what engagement with that account with its old name, with its old handle. So in this case, you can see the last one was on September 9th. So very likely this was rebranded actually fairly recently. There's another thing you can do, which is, I've had this link, just do it here, but you can do just an @ and then the handle. So I'm using the Zealous Ozturk handle here, and I'm using an until parameter. So there are advanced search parameters since and until. Since means in the format YYYY with hyphens, and you can specify the start date and end date of the tweets or posts, or I guess as they call now on X. And you can specify basically a date range or a first date or a date and or a start date. And you can see the engagement of this, and you can see that actually it confirms that this is now called Today News Co. So this was the rebrand of it. Yeah, so that's pretty useful. You can also see that it was also part of the Turkish language ecosystem in the past as well. So everything is in Turkish. Right. So moving on to Facebook. Facebook also has canonical IDs. You can find that by going to the transparency panel. This is a page that really appears to be a scam, and I'll show you why in a moment. I guess it's not often that I get to find something that isn't taken down, but although Facebook does take quite a while to take things down, so I can use this as a demo for now. But yeah, this page here, I'm not saying it's a scam, I'm saying it looks scammy. You can go to if you go to any pages about panel and then go down to page transparency, you can see the page ID and the creation date and whether the page is currently running ads. And by the way, if it says it's not currently running ads, that doesn't necessarily mean it hasn't run ads in the past, as you might imagine. So what you want to do is do a see all, which is over here as well. That's what it looks like. See all, and you can see the history of name changes on a page. So this page used to be called Kravan Chantria, I'm thinking, I believe that's Cambodian, I'm not sure, but in any case, this was it was created with that name in 2023. And then it very recently changed its name to Pinoy Life Boost. And yeah, you can see the Cambodian link as well, which leads me to think that, yeah, it's Cambodian, and as well as a Vietnamese connection and one not available. Sometimes that happens. There's unfortunately some ways to obfuscate this. I don't want to tell that publicly right now, but unfortunately there are some ways to obfuscate this. But most of the time it will show you the actual page name and admin composition, and then you can view the ads. Well, you can do that from here actually. Go to ad library, but I'll just go to that from this link. I just want to point out, if you go to the ad library directly, that you may not, if there are no ads over here, that may be because active ads is turned on, and that's usually active ads is turned on by default. So you want to turn that off. And then you can see the entire history of ads, including ads that have been retired, like this one, for example. And yeah, I put the screenshots over here just in case I wasn't able to demo it live, but I am now. So, so for example, this one here, two ads use this text. Unfortunately, the problem is we won't get very much information from here because it's targeted at the UK, which unfortunately doesn't force companies, force the advertiser to reveal the broader set of information that the EU does. Fortunately, this individual or people who run this were neglectful, possibly enough, or I didn't care maybe, but they did post some ads with EU levels of transparency, and the EU requests much more information. So you can click an ad if you're in luck and you see EU transparency, that's like the jackpot right there. That will force a full expansion of like all the a full breakdown of like what ages were targeted, genders. It'll tell you what the reach is. It'll tell you what the reach is in different breakdowns of age and gender and everything. Thank you, EU. And it will. This was very useful to us in investigating the Qatar plot. It will tell you who's the beneficiary and the payer. This is information that sometimes disappears, so you want to record this. And I mean, there's unfortunately no way to natively archive this, but at least you want to get some kind of a snapshot or something of this as soon as possible. And this you can run a search on this this phrase. Set of terms in Facebook, and hope that there's a page with a unique name like this. That's a problem that we face a lot of the times when we're investigating the Qatar plot, because sometimes they would use some of those. Remember those ones that you just like DGG, BXK, whatever, just some string of letters, or sometimes it just be like ABC 1 2 3. And there are tons of pages like that. There are tons of pages named Jones Hamilton or something like that, like generic pages like that. So yeah, if you're lucky, you'll get something that's unique enough that will enable you to find an exact like a page that might give you some identifying information, like we did for that Vietnamese phone farm operator. But if not, then you have to keep searching, unfortunately. But keep that in mind, though. Sometimes you can use multiple page names and triangulate and figure things out that way as well. But yeah, at least if you find something with an EU level of transparency, that's a huge win. Next, we'll talk about the web archive. So also known as the Internet Archive or the Wayback Machine. This can be used to find, like, if you enter a URL, you can find its historical, states across at various points of time. It'll show you a handy timeline like this and show you, I'll demo this one. So this is a website, Hindutva Watch, and you can see over here the different, at least the homepage, you can see the different states of it. So in this case, you can see that there's barely any activity here, and then there's a bit more activity here, and then it really explodes over here. The reason why I brought this page up is because there was an outfit that pretended to be an OSINT, like a counter disinformation outfit, that was claiming that this website was actually founded far earlier than it was, and it had some implications. But it turns out that if you look at the early stage of the website, there was a placeholder for a long time. It belonged to someone else for a long time, and then it was dropped for a while, and then there was a placeholder for a long time, and then it actually started in 2023 in earnest. So yeah, that you can do things like that. You can see, for example, 2021 on this date. You can see what that looked like. Well, while that is loading, yeah, so things like that. You can find gaps in the use of the actual domain name without having to say pay say an analytics provider to actually look into this for you. So you can find like a gap or something like that indicates that it might have changed hands in that time. It can also be used to find the content of X accounts in the past. It's taking so long. You know, if there's some
Too far way back.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a long time to load. In any case, we can try this one. So this is an example of an earlier state of a Twitter account. So they have a special way to handle X accounts, and this is a very valuable resource for looking at the history of an X account. If you know it's, especially if you know using those other means I mentioned, know its past handles. So in this case, I don't have the internet anymore. Wait, nothing's loading. Okay. Okay, well, I don't want to delay this too much. So anyway, this is what it looked like. So you'd be able to get like a view, a capture of what the of historical tweets with that handle using this URL. Basically, you can search for this. You can search for this segment, right? For HTTP, you use twitter.com/the handle/status/**, and then you run that as a search term in the Internet Archive, and you can see a list of tweets from as far back as it was captured for that account, as far back as it was captured, not necessarily as far back as the account's gone. In this particular case, if you click on one of those tweets, you'll see something like a captured version of the tweet, usually with an image, if there's an image, and also including the old avatars of the user and everything. So that's also a useful bit of intel. And you have to also look for in the column application/JSON, in the column in the type column. And if you see application/JSON, that tells you it has captured the data stream, and that will give you the data structure basically, and that'll tell you, for example, when that account was created and its description at that time, its canonical ID. You can also find through this means, and it'll also tell you what the previous display name and the previous location. So for example, that Crazy Vibes account that I mentioned earlier, which Elon had interacted with and it turned out to be Indian, that's how I found out that it was Indian. It had put its location as India earlier. It appears that at some point this person had decided, oh well, Daddy Elon is giving us money for making incendiary, slop content. So let's lean into that, and now it pretends it's located in Texas, USA.
Iowa at the same time, right? Or probably in Iowa at the same time as well.
Yes. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of accounts that do this, but yeah, thanks to the Internet Archive, to the extent that it captures, again, these aren't like, held to any a commitment to have captured everything. So it depends on what they captured, but if they have captured past states, and especially the past JSON, the data structures for these, for the content, then you can find out, for example, what the account used to, where it was located and what it used to be named and so on and so forth. Okay, oh, wait, something has happened. So yeah, then you just, if it's a JSON, then you just go display JSON and you can see the data structure and peek through it and find out any useful information. I think there it is, yeah. So you can see there it is. Is this finished? Yeah, I don't know why this is so slow, or in any case, so Dnalytics, thankfully I've got screenshots. So Dnalytics is one of these companies that does web analytics, has captured information from different websites and can show you a report, for example, in the case, I hope this works. Okay, oh, it does, okay. Yeah, so in this case, for example, this website, conservativehome.com, you can see you can get a domain report. In this case, you just go basically Dnalytics, then if you have the search bar, you just go search for a domain. And, you can see, for example, all its namespace records, it's MX records that can tell you, for example, where its mail servers are located. You can see, this is very useful, especially the Google tags. So these are tags used for tracking and for other information. But for example, over here, you can see a tracking tag. These used to start with UA hyphen, and now they're different. But at least like if they have the historical UA hyphen tag, then you can see, for example, what other websites use the same tag. So in this case, it's like conservative home and order. And you can also do a search like this, like a HTML tag search. Let's see here. Just ask for a domain report, and it'll pull out the tags for you, and you can just actually get the tag. You can enter it if you have the tag. You can enter it directly. You can also find this tag by opening like any page on the website, maybe the home page, and do a view source on the page, and you can do a search, a text search in the source of the page for UA hyphen or G hyphen, and look for a Google tag that you can then use this reverse analytics Google tag search, stick it in here, and then do a search, and you can get other, like which sites use the same tag. And yeah, also some, it will It will often contain registration information, however, not necessarily. A lot of times these websites will not actually will use like anonymizers, anonymization services. It's like, I think, I don't know, £5, $5 extra or something like that. So a lot of the times, however, sometimes you might strike it lucky, and especially if it's in some place where they don't really consider this a big deal to run an authentic coordinated authentic behavior, then they may not actually spend the extra money on that service, and then you get like all the information on the registration, who's registered the site and where they're located and all of that. And there are a couple of other useful things. So the great thing about well-known.dev, that's well-known.dev, is that it, of course, it scans for like the ad exchanges on a site. So if you just enter a domain name, and you can find out what ad exchanges were listed there. So for example, actually, it also archives it, which is really cool. So channel3now.com, which spread that misinformation during the Southport riots, the Southport spin-off riots. I did a scan, and it's still archived. So you can see over here, these are all the ad exchanges. There's Amazon and Ezoic, remember that AI writer, Outbrain, PubMatic, of course, like these are the major ones. So you can use this information to like connect things to other sites. For example, sometimes you can click on one of these tags, and you can find out where else this tag was used as well, and find other websites that share these in common. There's also the information laundromat. So I'll just show you a basic one. This is content similarity. So you enter a website. You don't ask for reCAPTCHA. So what content similarity does is it runs a scan on the content of the website, and then it uses a bunch of different search engines and some I mean, there's a particular methodology it uses to find similar looking content elsewhere on the web. So sometimes if there's, say, one of these Potemkin newsy-ish websites that has a bunch of different operations across the web, and they share a lot of content among them, they just basically take the same garbage and spread it across different websites and monetize all of them. You can use something like information laundromat to find where else they've used the same content. Sometimes they'll have a certain combination, they'll use a certain combination of words in their privacy policy, for example, and that'll enable you to link different websites together and find out some kind of coordination. There's other stuff as well, like the metadata similarity, which looks at things like basically pops the hood and looks for like records about what kind of servers they use, what kind of certificates, shared certificates among different websites. You can enter comma-separated lists in metadata similarity and look at and look for similarities among a specific list of websites. So yeah, this is a pretty great resource. And there's also image lookup, which is really cool. So in the case of, save some over here. So Google Lens, where is it? So consider this one, for example. Google Lens is generally good for this sort of thing. Unfortunately, in this case, it's not so great. Yeah, so you can see it'll find other like images that are similar to the one you just copy pasted or uploaded, and that'll enable you to find like, okay, well, this seems to be the original one. There's other websites as well, like TinEye, for example. In fact, if you're using Android, you can, I believe there's a way you can just like, depending on which version you have, I think you can just contract your screen and then run Google Lens on any tab basically, without having to open the website or anything like that. But yeah, you can see over here as well, it has picked up these, it has picked up even fact checks. So that's really cool. And there's also Yandex. Yandex is Russia-based, so probably don't want to do stuff involving Russia on this. But yeah, it has a pretty cool, it has a pretty good image, similar image finder as well. So. So there's also a couple of other sites like photo forensics, which is useful for running forensics. I probably won't demonstrate all of these right now, but let me just save these. So there's the image verification assistant as well at mever.iti.gr/forensics. And there's photo forensics. Both of them allow you to browse and upload like an image, and it'll run scans on it. You can run different scans to look, for example, at hidden pixels or something like that. In this case, I'll show you how this looks like in the image verification assistant, but it'll do a bunch of different scans on this one as well. And you can use these to figure out if there's been any kind of like image modification. So the noise print can be useful for that. This is the noise print in the genuine image. You can see in the modified image, it's been flattened outside of this area where the text has been modified. And if you want to, I guess, get a sense of how this works, the best way is probably just like find fact checks of like images like these, and find the original and find the faked one, and just run both of them and then compare them, and you'll see like, you know, what signs you should look for. I don't think we can go through all of them right now, but this is just an example, you know, like the genuine one and the modified one, which obviously has the text modified to say something politically problematic. And there are a couple of others like InstaHunt. In the case of InstaHunt, you can use Barbican. So this will enable you to go to a particular area and find photos that have been, find locations in which photos have been taken in that area. So you just go to like find places, get Instagram place data. You have to have an Instagram account to do this, but yeah, you take the raw data, just copy and paste that into here and map, and you can see all these places where photos have been taken nearby. Here, for example, it's in Bart's. So yeah, all the images that have been tagged over there. That's mine. Okay, and what's my name app is a great way, like if you know a handle of a particular individual, or sometimes even an anonymous account, if you know the handle, I'll just use myself as a guinea pig here. You can just enter the handle. This is my X handle and my Facebook handle and a few other accounts. So you enter the handle and captcha, and it'll scan a whole bunch of different platforms and websites where people have accounts, and will find out if there's accounts with that name, with that handle in those places. So yeah, it'll go through a whole bunch of them. Yeah, so on and so forth. So for safety's, just take a bit of time. For safety's sake, you want to use something like Where Goes. So in case of where goes, it's basically a URL extension. It's a URL tracer. So let's say I receive like a t.co URL, like or a tiny URL or a bit.ly URL. I can do something like, let's grab that and stick it in here, and it'll find me the final destination of that URL. Or sometimes it'll just say that it doesn't go anywhere. So like say a Tico, that's a Twitter URL. That goes to a bit.ly, that goes to biz journals. So you can see the final, where that URL terminates. That's good in case, you want to investigate some URL on some website, but you don't want to endanger yourself by
clicking on any emails and that sort of thing. Clicking on any sort of
if you receive
various emails, but
if you receive a URL in an email or something like that, and it's sketchy or something like that, you want to verify it. That's also useful for that. And there's also a URL scan.io, which can scan a URL for you safely. So for example,
Sohan.
I don't know why it's not working now. In any case, yeah, if you wanna just scan. Yeah. And last but not least, basically that allows you to view a website without actually visiting it using your own browser. You can see what it looks like. And last but not least, you can do a little bit of hackishness and, for example, just use something like, for example, a website like All Arab News, which is one website of interest. If you see a website like this, and you want to find out, like, who are the authors and is there anything sketchy going on or something like that, you can just do something like sitemap.xml, and you can do something like, look at the categories, look at the authors of different articles and so on. Just pop the hood, explore around, see if anything is useful information, or sometimes if it's WordPress, WP sitemap.xml. And yeah, that's it for the primer on investigation. Thank you. Yes.
Could you go back to the previous page where the well-known death is, please? The one before it. The one before it. Please, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the talk. I appreciate the level of detail you've gone into with those tools. It's not something that I've seen before in any other OSINT talk that I've attended. My first question is going back to the Southport murder protests. Have you read the report on the police's response to those protests, the government report, I think referred to as tranche 2?
Tranche 2.
Tranche 2. So it's the review of the response to the protests.
I've heard of, is it the one where the police could not reveal anything about the suspect?
It was one of the conclusions in the report was that they couldn't find any evidence that there was significant coordinated coordinated influence by extremist groups. So that wasn't a motivating factor for the protests. So I was wondering what your view on that is, because that disinformation exists, but what level of influence does it have, and how can you measure that?
Yeah, in the case of Southport, yeah, I'm not claiming that there was a coordinated inauthentic behavior in the sense of an influence operation involving like a central actor manipulating different assets, except that one Indian guy who had 3 accounts, but you know, that's really small scale. This was more of something that's just organically emerged from the hate grift economy, and also just not necessarily hate as well. I mean, I don't think those people who forward this information, I don't think many of them really cared about, you know, whether about issues of immigration or anything like that. I think they were just looking for clicks, looking for monetization. So this is, I think, an unfortunate effect of the monetized and, you know, advertised information economy that we have now, and also with all this opacity that prevents us from, except in cases where we really get lucky, finding out who exactly is behind these. Like if you want to influence people, you don't have to have you know, a coordinated and inauthentic campaign necessarily. You can just, if you say own a platform, you can just incentivize the most incendiary behavior, like, or just incentivize the most engaging behavior, which tends to be the most incendiary behavior, and you know, let the chips fall where they may, and they usually fall in that case in the most incendiary outcome.
So do you believe that the protests would not have happened if that information or disinformation on social media didn't exist?
It's hard to say. They definitely wouldn't have happened. I think maybe some protests would have happened, but you could definitely see, you know, the particular claims making an appearance in among, you know, like people like Lawrence Fox and people like that. Like they were using this to rile up their followers. We can't really model a counterfactual like that. Like if this didn't happen, then what would have happened? We don't really have a case like that. Sorry.
Okay, numbers of question, gentleman at the back.
Yes.
The Channel 3.
Will you speak up?
The Channel 3 account, it just got swept up in sort of scraping on Twitter for what was relevant? It wasn't like malicious, was it?
Did it?
Did the account just scrape what happened to be trending at the time, and it wasn't actually a malicious spread of misinformation?
It doesn't look like it was malicious. It looks like, I mean, they've been doing this for a long time before, as you can see by all these, you know, scrubs and rebrands. They've been experimenting a lot, and they have quite a bit of a history of doing this. It's just that at this point they got, I guess, unlucky in a weird way, that they got caught up in this. But previously they've been just taking stuff off the internet and regurgitating it as news articles. I mean, this is how many of these. There's a huge economy of sites doing things exactly like this. It's just that this one happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, I guess. But it got taken down eventually. Yeah.
How much money are these people making from the ads?
I don't have exact figures. I know that.
Is it like pennies or pounds or hundreds? Sort of thing?
I think the European invasion one, if I recall correctly, boasted of having gotten some thousands of pounds in a year. So it depends, of course. If you're living in a place where a little, like, you know, because of purchasing power arbitrage, you know, a pound goes a long way over there, then it's quite a bit of money.
Sohan, question.
Yes.
On disinformation, you would think that technology companies need to look at it, or the governments need to look at it, or what? I mean, how do we prevent this? Because I think the technology companies are getting away with murder in a lot of things. So one of which is disinformation. What's your view?
My position is primarily centered around transparency and interoperability and accountability. So if you make certain commitments, you're obliged to carry through them, because that's, that's why we signed up to the platform, right? Those are the terms. And also in terms of things like, inauthentic behavior, scams and things like that. If you are not doing anything about them, if you're not doing anything substantial about them, at least open the window for investigators and researchers to be able to do that. Like CrowdTangle was retired last year. The Meta's page tracking tool, CrowdTangle, that was retired last year, and X has made its API prohibitively expensive. So yeah, it's like if we just had the ability to do it ourselves, to build like applications. Let's say if I want to control my online experience, I want to say subscribe to a third-party moderation algorithm or something like that. If I want to just see nothing but disinformation, then maybe I should have a right to do so. But at the very least, give me the ability to opt out of being manipulated.
Yes.
Right, and they won't even let you do that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think part of this, and not being the only greying gentleman in the room, back when I was a kid, you got the BBC News in the evening and stuff was couriered and it was slow. Now we expect news every second. Even the BBC does this. Professor Bloggs, we've invited you into the studio. We don't want you to speculate wildly about the cause of the accident, but could you please now speculate wildly? We're all conditioned now,
without any context,
we're now conditioned to expect information now. And that's the problem, I think, that the root of this, people will swallow, not codified, the BS that's put out there before someone who's doing a diligent job and trying to get to the truth and put into writing something that is reasonably close to what's going on. But the BS has got there first and everyone's running away with it.
Air India crash, the recent Air India crash.
Yes. That's also, if I can add something, is that, and also at the end of the day, because of this whole BS that the gentleman was talking about, that I think we as a society, I think in the, let's say, modern age, have basically forgotten how to think critically. So the old adage that when more or less everyone was in university studying, probably, or even in our education systems. Okay, at that time we were taught proper critical thinking, even by our parents or anything like that. Okay, but nowadays if you look at kids, especially the youngsters, okay, they tend to just say, "Oh, something's happened and this and that." Okay, but think about it at the end of the day as well. And just investigate it, basically, yourself.
I'm not sure I understand the question though.
No, I was just saying that. I was just saying that, for example, the previous gentleman was about that nowadays we need news like a fire hose completely. Okay. But I was also adding, basically adding that also I think we as society have stopped critically thinking or questioning basically what you're saying, basically,
yeah,
or what's being told to you. That's for my main point.
I disagree.
Sohan, hold on.
Sohan, I have two questions. The second, which is a two-parter, but I think they're quick response questions. So I think they're quick response questions. The first question is, multiple times a day, I have ground news marketed at me. Is that worthwhile? In your opinion?
Ground news.
Ground news.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I mean, I kind of create my own ground news by having a diverse set of sources that I look into whenever a story is emerging. But yeah, if there's like services that do that for you and point out like there's coverage happening here that maybe you might not be aware of in your own information ecosystem, in your own part of the information ecosystem, yeah, that's a good thing.
Second question then, again, two-parter, and I'll ask both. The first is, how much mis and disinformation that we experience in the UK do you think is state-sponsored? And the second part of it is same question, but domestic.
How much disinformation is state-sponsored and how much is domestic?
An intuition.
Not a lot is state-sponsored, like even the Qatar plot. We weren't able to pin down exactly who it is, but it appears to be a private actor, but maybe with some state backing, it's not clear. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest ones that targeted the UK. It appears the UK is actually at the moment primarily a victim of these grifters. I mean, they just are able to create accounts and manage them at an industrial scale and put content they don't even really care about, actually. Like they just look at whatever's the most incendiary, the most trending thing right now, whatever's causing the most scandal, and just often just have AI produce a video, like a faceless video nowadays, or just churn out a bunch of images that will get the most eyeballs. I think I wouldn't call that state-sponsored. I think a lot of it is international, as I've
famous Russian bot farms that we hear about. I don't know if they're real or not.
Oh, they're real, yeah, but they're not specifically targeting the UK in a major scale. It's mostly Europe that's facing that's taking the brunt of it from Russia and such. Yeah, there was an Indian influence operation that was targeting the UK for a long time, though.
Just to clarify what I said, you are criticising and critically thinking about the mainstream media and not trusting it. Trusting this stuff. But my question is, and perhaps to these two gentlemen here are AI people, can AI agents be deployed to combat this? Seek it out and destroy it.
Can AI agents be used to seek out and destroy this sort of disinformation?
It can, and in fact, we are using tools like OSINT investigators are using AI tools. I'm using AI tools.
They can use all the tools that you access, all the tools that you gave there.
The ones I shown aren't AI tools.
No, the AI can access all of those tools.
Yes, yeah.
Very quickly and process the information and find and discover the miscreants.
Yes, yeah, you can. Well, I actually spoke about this on a recent podcast as well. There's a level of human supervision that is necessary as well. AI can sometimes be misled by the very things that are used to mislead, by the very features that are used to mislead humans. And sometimes, something like the similarity of names. AI typically doesn't understand like meme culture or anything like that. So sometimes it can be misled by that. And sometimes AI can be just wholesale manipulated by influence operations, like the recent Pravda operation by Russia to flood the internet with machine reader friendly versions of its narrative, so that all the AI crawlers, crawlers used to feed the LLMs, will pick up this information and see so much of it that they'll think, oh, this must be the consensus. So things like that as well. Like AI is also vulnerable. Interestingly, vulnerable in many of the same ways humans are, like social proof and stuff like that.
Would you say the Russians are better at it than we are?
Or what?
Are the Russians better at it than we are?
Yes. They have a lot more experience, but other countries are catching up. China has been definitely catching up as well. Yeah.
Are you looking in Russia or China for Western disinformation campaigns? You're looking at it through the lens of the UK, aren't you?
I don't really have access to inside China.
Exactly. So you can't say what activity is going on sponsored by Western states.
Yeah, well, I can tell you though that Western countries have run disinformation campaigns. There was a infamous one that, yeah, it was exposed last year where the US, during the Trump administration, it must be mentioned, ran an influence operation in the Philippines to convince the people of the Philippines that the Sinovac, the Chinese COVID vaccine, was had some especially harmful properties and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that ended up making Filipinos more like vaccine hesitant in general. So that is a really, really bad move. And I mean, just from like a position of principle, it's a bad move, but also in impact and everything. Yeah, I would say, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Western countries like non-Russia, non-China, non-Iran countries do have run influence operations in the past. And now with Trump 2.0, I think the two recent memory in US influence operations I'm aware of were run during the first Trump administration. And now that we have Trump 2.0, we're probably gonna see more of those. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them.
Okay, final question.
Picking up on what you were saying about AIs not checking, my employer had to fight a court case because legal researchers asked a well-known AI for case precedent rulings. Didn't check them. They were hallucinations. They were not case history. The judge's report, which I've seen, went through a whole load of these across the globe. Australia, New Zealand, South America, USA, UK. Hallucination, I think, is a very dangerous thing in AI at the moment, which could feed these false narratives.
Yeah, hallucinations are certainly a threat. That's why human supervision is very much necessary. There should be a human in the last mile, for lack of a better term, or who, I guess, to whom the buck has passed at the end, to take responsibility for things. It's like any kind of technology. I mean, you can use facial recognition, could be useful in finding criminals, but you don't want to just like, okay, the computer identified this person, just send someone to arrest them. No, you don't do that. You have someone, okay, here are the candidates for this person, have someone actually look through these and, with a human eye and check and so on. So the same thing should apply in counter disinformation as well and other spheres. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're going to pause at that point. Pause because you can continue talking when we go through to have our food and drink. But meanwhile, I'd like to thank Sohan for his deep research